Good afternoon, everybody. This is a nice little chilly fall day, and it is my birthday. And what other goodness to have for some tricks and treats is to give you guys a nice little interview with returning guest JD Oliva, who you heard about last time, which was oh God, I think it was like last month or something, where we were talking about his Harvest Moon. And that funded very well, and we can maybe talk a little bit about that too before we get into the Hawk Hallow, a Halloween story book that we are promoting for him today. So JD, welcome back.
Thanks, man. First of all, happy birthday. Thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome.
Hopefully I can do you a solid of a good interview for a birthday gift. So we'll see how this goes.
Well, you know, it's involved like wine, beer. We're all good. So
I'll get right on that.
All right, relaxation. You know, that's all that matters. Just have a good time and just getting drunk and stuff. So I mean, yeah, just have fun with it, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I had my day off, and you know, it kind of feels nice to always do that when I can. Otherwise, if it's like in the middle of the week, then I usually just kind of just work it and be like, yeah, whatever.
I get that.
Yeah. So, JD, real quick. So, your Kickstarter was a success.
Yeah.
So tell us about what's going on with that. So, you got your new Harvest Moon cover, and so where are we about now with that?
Well, we finished the Kickstarter campaign. We launched it in the middle of August, funded it in the middle of September. I'm sorry, flip that. We launched it in the middle of September and funded in the middle of something like that. I forget. It all bleeds together. We funded it. We were only asking for $500. We wound up with $2,500. So we quintuple funded what we were asking for. We actually hit our funding goal in like 10 hours, something ridiculous like that. It was a hugely successful campaign. It was my first prose writing campaign, and those typically don't have the big audiences that, like, say, a comic book campaign does. But we did very well. Like, we for what an average Kickstarter does for a book, we way exceeded what the average campaign can do. So I'm really proud of that. Right now, I had to actually go back and do some rewrites because I did have two people who funded at a level to become characters in the book. So I actually had to go back and write them into the story. It was pretty easy. I just took two existing characters and traded them out, and it was a great business decision because I made good money off of it. So that's finished, and I sent those rewrites off to my editor just to make sure that I didn't screw up or, you know, forget to change their names in a certain spot. So once that's done, it'll go into Amazon, and we'll start printing the books, and they'll be mailed to everybody. So when, you know, on the whole, it went great. I believe you were the first podcast that I did when promoting this thing. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. No, it was fun. And talking with Richard, that was nice too, because Richard's a good guy. So
he's a great guy. He's a great guy. Fantastic artist. You know, someone's going to get to own that sweet painting, and it's going to look beautiful in their house. So I'm really happy that we did it.
So did somebody actually back that one?
Somebody actually backed that one, yes.
Oh my God. Good for them.
Yes.
Good for them. Because that definitely is a beautiful piece to hang up in your household. So
it is. It is. I'm a little envious, but you know, it's. I'm glad it found a home.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, I think anything Richard does is like just phenomenal. Anyway, I mean, I don't know what Richard can't do.
He's great, man. Like we did a comic story together back in like 2012, and he knocked that out of the park. And I pushed him a little bit with doing this cover, and he nailed it. He just
destroyed it. Yeah, he just like made it just pop, if I may say.
Yeah, so, I agree. It was great.
Like as soon as that cover showed up, it was just like, oh my goodness, like, yeah.
He's good, man. I mean, like, if anyone out there is in a position to hire an artist for any reason, you cannot go wrong with Richard Clark. He's great.
Yeah, and his prices isn't that bad either. So.
No, he took good care of me, man. We're friends, and I owe him on that. So thanks, bud. I know you're listening.
Exactly. Richard, you're still a good guy. On top of what I said last time, but you're still good. You're still a good guy.
He's all right. He's good peoples.
Yeah. So JD, talk to me about this book here, because I know it's quite a few years old now, but you're still like to promote it around Halloween time, which is understandable because it's October. It's the scary story, more scary stories, I should say, and this is more like a Halloween tale anyway. And yeah, so what is Hawk Hallow?
Hawk Hallow is the story of a small town in Minnesota that has a commercial haunted house, like one of those things that they get erected every year, and people go and they walk through like a little maze and they get scared. And it's the story of a bunch of kids that get trapped inside of this commercial haunted house, where it turns out the people working inside are actual monsters, and it's a fight for survival on Halloween night, with a family of demonic redneck djinn and a group of 7th graders.
Wow, what a combination.
It's basically like The Goonies meets Near Dark. Like if you're a big Stranger Things fan, I think that this is a story that'll click with you. It was my first book, and every year on Halloween, I kind of like to promote it a little bit. We just got a brand new cover out for it, and I'm really proud of this one. It was the first novel that I ever completed and like tried to make something with, and it's a personal story to me in a lot of ways. So every time around this year, I like to kind of get out there and say, hey, this book is still out there. Give it a look for Halloween.
Fair enough. Yeah, from the link that you gave me with the new cover, I actually do like this one a lot better than the old one.
Me too. It's been a hard book to get a cover for. This is actually the 4th cover I've had for this book, and we've just kind of struggled. Like I've had a different artist, and it just didn't quite click. This one is my favorite. Part of having a book business is you're constantly tweaking your covers. This is the best one we've had for this one. I like it. I really like it so far.
Now, is it because of the whole less is more type of thing?
Well, and when picking out covers, it's really important. Like they always say, you don't judge a book by its cover. It's absolutely not true. People absolutely judge books by the cover. Like if your cover doesn't entice them in, they're never going to check the sample. If they never check the sample, they're probably not going to buy it. Like even the little description at the bottom of the page. Like if your cover doesn't grab them, they're never going to buy it. And that's just a sad fact of reality. So it's really important when choosing the cover for a book is you have to understand what sells in the genre and what tropes that readers like. And like in my research it's not really a haunted house book in the way that most haunted house books are, where it's like ghosts and stuff like that. It's a different, like it is a haunted house book, but it's got a twist. But that being said, as I'm selling it as a haunted house book, I needed to kind of hit what was working in that specific space. So I needed to have a haunted house on the cover. And I found the perfect one, and we talked about the artist. She's like, oh, this is way better, and it just, I think it clicks. I think it helps sell the book better than what we've had before. So I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I would be too, because it's plain, simple, and the way the lighting is through the windows, I think, grabs your eyes too. Right? Yeah. It kind of glues you to the house, per se. Yeah.
I agree, and this is, like I said, this is a tricky one. Like Harvest Moon's an easy book to do a cover of. Like I told Rich, hey bro, I need a werewolf. I need a big gnarly looking werewolf. That's easy. Like this one, it's like, well, it's a haunted house, and I got to get into the story, and people look at you like, okay, tougher. That's a tougher one to do. So yeah. It's been a bit of a struggle, but I think this one is far and away the best one we've had. And here's the crazy part about all this, is that this novel should not exist. What I mean by that is when my brother and I conceived this story way back in, I want to say it was 2012. And he had the idea of what if a bunch of kids got caught in a haunted house with a bunch of serial killers, like a Texas Chainsaw thing. And I said to him, I was like, it'd be better if it was supernatural as opposed to just murderers, because then you can have a little more fun with the story and it's not quite so heavy. You know, there's a nice little buffer when you include the supernatural in it. Like, I didn't like the idea of, like, you know, Last House on the Left with kids. It just didn't click with me. So originally it was going to be a vampire book, and I was going to be a comic book. And I wrote the first couple drafts of the comic, and it wasn't quite clicking. And so I kind of put it away for about a year. And then the two of us were driving in the car, and I said, okay, if it's not vampires, what are they? The villains, the Slaters, they're called them in the book. And I kind of came up with this idea of the Jinn. But what if, you know, what if these were like rednecks, like stereotypical, over-the-top rednecks? Because this is a role they play more than anything. And that I liked that idea, and I went back and I retooled the story. And the story is really about a family kind of dealing with the loss of a parent and two brothers who handle it completely differently. And we were able to work in the ideas of, you know, bullying and trying to fit in middle school, and the adjustments from high school from middle school to high school. And that's what it's really about, and bullying and friendship and those type of things. But this was not supposed to be a novel. This was supposed to be a 4-issue miniseries comic. And I approached my friend, this guy named Matt Jordan, who was an animator in Chicago. We worked together in this studio, and we both love comics. And I brought him this idea, and he absolutely loved it. He went home that night and sketched out what he saw the Jinn to be. And what I like, and I mean, I can send this picture to you over the Skype chat, is his version of the Jinn was that they were creatures made of pure light who couldn't exist in like the real world. So they had to have human bodies to like jump onto. And I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. It's perfect. So that was the idea that we went with. I mean, like it really kind of gave us a chance to make our own creatures. You know,
so kind of like a not to interrupt you, but
no, please.
In a way of like a invasion of a body snatcher.
Very much so, except like a little bit more conscious. I literally just sent you the picture of what they look like. Yeah. Huh. So that is what our Jinn looked like, and that was what they were going to be in the comic before they invaded. But again, these things can't exist in our world. Like the world bends and twists because they don't belong here. So it took forever, but I got 4 pages of finished artwork from him. And again, this is a dude that he was a full-time animator. And he's a real interesting dude. He's a childhood cancer survivor. Lived with his he was paralyzed from the waist down. He was full life. Like he was just fun to talk to and hang out with. And he took care of his grandparents and his mom. And in the course of 9 months, he lost both his grandparents and his mother. And it was really tough for him. And I remember we were out to lunch talking about the project. And, you know, I kind of made this my mission because this is around the same time that I'm doing Deluge with Rich. And I got a good response from Deluge. It came out. We did not have we went pure Comixology submit with it, which is just pure, you know, self-publishing before it was really a thing. And I don't want to say it was a hit, but it was like super well reviewed. And it sold literally thousands of copies on Comixology, but I didn't know how to do the business end of things. So it was just kind of this thing. Like my number one concern was I wanted to write major comics, and this was all just, you know, basically resume stuff. So I had these 4 pages, and I knew that I could get a publisher on board with what we already had done. Like my scripts were done, his sample pages were looking fantastic. I just had to bait the hook. So I went out to New York Comic-Con in October of 2014 with a mission. I had a couple copies of Deluge, the book I did with Rich, in my backpack, and I had on my iPad these finished pages. And I talked to everybody. I showed them around. You know, they made really good impression. I remember talking to Kyle Higgins, the writer, and a writer became a friend. And he's like, "Man, you know what you're doing. You're good. You just haven't had a break yet. Let me introduce you to some people." So he did, and it was really cool. I came back home and I told Matt, the guy's name is Matt Jordan. I said, "Matt, everyone loves your work. Like we got something here. Like, you know, nothing's official, but I think we really have something." And he got emotional. He's like, "Man, for the last 10 years I've been working for other people. Now I finally get to do something that I want to do." And I was so geeked up for it. 2 weeks later, I got a phone call from a friend of mine who told me that Matt Jordan had passed away.
Oh no.
Yeah, this is literally 2 weeks later. He was working at the studio, and he had developed a staph infection. But they work pretty long hours, doing animation, and he just didn't really like going to doctors all that much, being cancer survivor and all that. He's like, I'm just tired. I'm okay. I'll be okay. And he drove the hour home from the studio to his house, and apparently he parked the car in the driveway and just figured he'd take a nap before getting himself out of the car and going back into the house, and he never woke up.
Wow.
And he was 30 years old.
What the hell?
Yeah, and that was hard, man. That slapped me, as a call to your own mortality, and losing a good friend, and then thinking about the business aspect of it too. Is like, what do I do now? And I remember feeling guilty for my feelings, and I called Andy Schmidt, who was the teacher. We had a comics experience, and I asked him. I said, I feel guilty asking you this question, but I don't know what to do. And he said to me, he's like, dude, this is a tough situation. You're not a bad person for wondering about this. You just, you're in a tough spot. He's like, you can always get someone to redo it. And I remember thinking, like, I don't want anyone to redo this. Like, this is hits. Like, and it took me like a month to figure out what I wanted to do. And I went through this kind of ushered me into a big, like, full year of just straight on depression. But I decided, why not try to do a novel? Because nothing felt right otherwise. And it took me a year to write this novel. And in that year, between 2014 and 2015, it was just like, personally, it was one of those, things where, nothing works right. And, wife had a miscarriage, and, we had adopted we were fostering a kid, and it just, this teenager, and it was not going well. And just personal life stuff, and just being miserable all the time. And on top of that, about a month after Matt died, we got an offer from a publisher, and I had to turn it down because I didn't have any. It's independent comics. Like you're a total package. It's not like they're gonna go find you another artist. So it was like I got everything I wanted, but I didn't have my partner there to share with, and therefore I couldn't do it. So, literally, this book here became me trying to pull my ass back together, basically. And from the time that I started writing this as a novel to the time that I finished, like, the real first draft of it, I completely changed my life. I took a new job. I left the school I was coaching at. We had a baby boy, and it took about a good 2 years to really start feeling like myself again. And then, I got the Kickstarter going for another comics project, and I was this book, as a comic, got a second chance of life when I pitched it to a major comic studio. We'll just leave it at that. But they passed on it, and it was cool. We went about 3 months waiting on that. And then in the meantime, I started learning about self-publishing novels. And I said, well, I have a novel just sitting on my computer doing nothing. So I busted it out again. I kind of blew the dust off of it and went back and made some more tweaks, and launched my independent writer career with this book as a free book where I was building up my email list. And this was this became my bridge from depression into being what I've always wanted to be my whole life, which was a writer. So this is a story that is very close to me, mainly because it was of what it could have been. Like, I still love what this book turned into, but I will always look at it as what could have been,
No, I completely understand what you mean. And like, with that picture that you just sent me, for listeners, the best way I'm gonna describe what JD sent me is, imagine, like, let's see here, the best way I guess I could sum up this image is, like, think of decrypted the rake. And if he could, like, stand on his 2 feet, because we all know the rake seemed to, like, kind of be on all fours. But anyway, if we can imagine the rake with an open mouth with white eyes and the white that JD is talking about that is glowing inside his mouth and eyes. And then we get this beautiful, like, highlighted shadows of, like, it's like a mix between a light and probably medium dark blue-ish green, because I do see a little sort of speck of green, but, like, the way the highlights are with the shadows of this creature is just, like, it's almost like a watercolor effect, and it's really nice. And oh my god! And JD just sent a little bit more.
These are the finished pages.
These are crazy. Like, I kind of wish we got to see this too, and that's unfortunate for what happened to Matt.
Yeah, a guy who overcame so much in his life, met with I hate to use the word tragic because it's thrown around, but I mean, like, I can't think of another way to sum up the life of a 30-year-old who ended so quickly, who had so much talent and was just starting to scratch it. And I'll never, like I said, the last conversation we had is I can finally do something for me. That was literally the last talk we had. And this book was literally, like, this book is about loss. And I lost my mom when I was young, and having lost Matt when I was, in my 30s, this is really a story, like, me trying to, I didn't realize at the time, I was like, well, I'm going to do this book to kind of work on my bullshit. But that wasn't the idea at all. But, going back and reading it again, I can see it. I'm like, oh yeah, this is totally a story about characters who are trying to pull the pieces back together. And that makes for really good horror stuff because it's damn scary.
It really is. It really is. And, like, I'm just looking at these other 3 pages that you just sent too, and it's just like, oh my god, this guy, that was really good.
He was really good. Like, this would have been something, it would have been, and it still can be as a book, but just in comics, like, this would have been it. And this is a shame.
Oh my goodness. Like, yeah, like, I don't even know what to say. Like, holy shit. It's except for this, like, we lost a really great artist and colorist, because he did the colors too.
Did the whole thing. He did everything.
Yeah. Oh my god, this guy is blowing my mind. Like, Matt, Jesus, rest in peace. But geez, oh my god, like, I just love this. Like, I really wish we could have seen what he could have done with the whole thing. Oh my god, this is just incredible to see. And if JD allows me to use these images, maybe I can post them in the article for people to see these.
I would love the fact that people haven't seen them always bothers me. So yeah, I mean, they're part of the book. Like, I included these as part of the package. Like, you buy the D book, you're going to see these in their glory, on the inside. And the end, it's the only book I have an afterword about where I talk about this kind of stuff, and I put it. I can't not, because I can't think about Hawk Hallow without thinking of Matt.
Jeez, I definitely understand why. And yeah, I mean, his work kind of reminds me of another comic too, but, like, this is just great. But you ever heard of Into the Darkness, I think it's called?
No, I haven't.
I would say check that out.
I will.
That's kind of sad what's going on with them, because they wanted to do like a 10 issue thing for Into the Darkness, but the guy had been quiet. He lost his what was it? His artist too, and I don't know if he, like, passed away, but I think it was more like he quit kind of thing, or he left. But it's been so long now that I don't even know if we're gonna ever see the return of it, kind of thing. And I don't know. It's just something about like what I'm seeing with Matt's work here. It just reminded me so much of Into the Darkness right now.
I'd like to check that book out because, again, and whatever can remind me of my buddy, I always appreciate. But yeah, man, that's like I said, the story behind Hawk Hallow is always one that I think helps it stand out. And, I like talking about it because I like talking about my friend. It'll be about 6 years this week, actually, that he passed away.
Wow.
Yeah, because I'm looking at my Facebook, and according to Facebook, I had just gotten home from New York Comic Con last week. So, and I haven't been back since, and, life took a different direction afterwards, but you make do with what you got, and that's I don't want to say this book is making do with it, but I mean, like, at the same time, Matt's loss is all over the book. His impact is still felt in the book. Like, we have a character, her name is Kira. She's the female Jinn, and he referred to her drawing as a skanky banshee. That was his inspiration. That was his way he drew. He called her a skanky banshee. So when the kids are talking about her in the story, I use that terminology for her. And there's things he created that are all over the place on this. They're mine now. I paid him for the work that he did, so legally they're mine. But his influence is undeniably all over this. And this is another one that I would love for more people to see, because quite frankly, I'd like to go back into this world and make it more economically viable for myself.
Well, I completely understand. And what's very interesting too is and I think I've only maybe mentioned this I think once on on the podcast, maybe not. I don't think I've actually really went into what happened, but just hearing how Matt passed away, it's kind of really interesting, because my dad was also a cancer survivor, and he was in Vietnam and stuff like that, and he was kind of like Matt in a way. He didn't really like to go to the doctors unless he really, really needed to, and so that was my dad. And then it was September 16th, 2003, where he was supposed to be going to the VA doctors for a appointment, and when he went into his pickup, he actually had a heart attack.
Oh, man.
So he ended up, because of the heart attack, he ended up basically having his foot down on the gas, reversed out into the road, came back into his yard, and basically crashed into his camper that he had, where he basically passed away there. It's I know. I mean, somebody like me should not be remembering this, but I mean, it's kind of bad when your mom drives by, and you just see, not really the aftermath, but you still see the aftermath of the tracks in the lawn, per se. So,
I'm sorry. Similar. We lost our mom in 2001. I was 21, and I was in college, and I was at home that morning, gave my mom a hug on my door, said, I love you, see you, bye. And I didn't quite mean it that way, because she passed away that night as a sudden death syndrome. The electrical impulses in the heart just stopped. If she was in the car with my dad and my brother, and if there had been a defibrillator nearby, she probably would have survived, but they weren't near one. And It was just, one of those things. I mean, these are things this is why horror, I think, works for people, is because we're all touched by death in some way. And that's what horror is about. It's about chasing the specter of death. And I think that people who enjoy horror have a more at peace understanding of it, I think, than most people. Is that we can to like horror, you have to be able to compartmentalize death a little bit more than average people. So I think that talking about these things and creating art based on these things helps people. It helps yourself and it helps others who might sympathize and are going through it. And I think this is why the medium and the genre of horror are important.
I can't agree. I can't. I mean, I can't disagree with that anymore. I mean, or like at all, I should say. Like it's. Yeah. I mean, I think that's why I enjoy horror. It's just because we're always chasing death. We're always trying to find the answers. We're always trying to find, I should say, the truth, really.
Yeah.
And not only that, but we like I was hearing another podcast, and I'll even say it here again, is like people don't realize, like, when it comes to the horror genre, yes, it is gory sometimes. It can be, like really bad. It can be whatever, depending on the movie. But you also got to remember that every horror story is a lesson learned of how to overcome the evil, the death, and everything else.
The darkness.
The darkness.
Whatever that represents to you, that's why my favorite horror is really, like, people like say, oh, the good versus evil stuff gets so cliche. And I don't buy into that, because like evil can be represented by anything that's standing in our way or anything that's trying to oppose us. And like horror just, it makes the stakes so much more grand, because like, a lot of times you watch like an action movie or something like there's this veil of safety over the characters. And I was telling you before the show started, the first chapter of Hawk Hallow, I introduced two characters, a boyfriend and a girlfriend, and I tell the story of how these high school kids meet and kind of fall in love, and how it's a nerd and a cheerleader, and they learn to kind of become happy together. And then I immediately kill them, because you have to set the stakes. That no one is safe. And in horror, no one is safe. Right? Like, and it's important to have, because there's not, that's why it's something like Game of Thrones grabs people, because like it's horror in disguise. Like, people think, they look at it as high fantasy and drama, but the stuff that happens to it is straight out of horror. And it makes it a little bit more like, it grabs people a little bit more. And that's what you're trying to do, is you're trying to pay mind to what happens in real life a little bit, and the fact that in real life none of us are safe, right? And it could be any moment. And in horror, it's the clock is ticking for everybody, and that's part of the fun of reading it or watching it, or just imbibing in the genre at all. So I think that's something we should embrace more than run away from.
Ooh, can I just say goosebumps?
I am a writer. This is what I get paid to do.
Yeah. I mean, not like I'm trying to say like that's a funny thing what you just said, but holy crap, like chills, man. Like, yeah, you nailed it. I think you nailed it in the coffin for sure with what you just said. Yes. And it's just I don't know. Like, I think that's why I actually find myself always liking horror more than any other genre, really. And even though I haven't seen Game of Thrones and stuff, but I mean, that's all I used to hear about.
Good. It's really good.
People is like, oh my god, they better not kill this person, and then they kill them, and then it's just like, no! And then you get like The Walking Dead, where
exact same thing. That is horror, but it's the same thing, as you develop these relationships with the characters, and you never know when their time's up. And they remind you of that constantly. Yeah.
And then you get like The Walking Dead, though, where like, you get almost like Rick being like Superman or something for how many seasons, and then he gets taken away without really an explanation, I guess, from what I understand. He just like gone. I mean, I don't know. The
contract expired. He didn't want to re-sign the contract, so it's a little bit different in that case. But yeah, it's the same deal. Is like, find me another show that will gladly kill off its lead character. And again, only in horror could something like that be done and be seen as a strength instead of a weakness.
Well, that's why I like, have you ever seen like the movie Thief?
Thief with James Caan?
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. God, Michael Mann, my favorite filmmaker. Absolutely.
that's a perfect example right there. Like, look how many times, like, that, the first film even, like, where this good guy steps in, he's like, no, I'm the main guy, kind of, like, appearance, like, he's the badass, and then he just gets wiped out on the floor, and then, like, the next guy comes in to try to take his place, and then he gets wiped out. It's just, that's what it reminded me of, but in a way... Yeah, but in a way, Feast did it in, like, a cheesy, fun way, though. And Feast is a good trilogy, if I remember right.
Cool.
But, yeah, I think my brain just died after hearing, like, all that stuff. All that emotional stuff. Yeah. No, well, it's... here we go. So, yeah, I'm tripping on words now because it's just like, well, what do we say after all this emotional talk and then, like, personal stuff, except for that, you know, Hawk Hallow is basically JD's personal book. His first book that, as you said, never should have seen the light of day, kind of thing. We shouldn't even be out in the public eye. And then, like, the tragic story behind what could have been, and it's just, oh my goodness, like just seeing the artwork though from Matt alone, it's just like, oh my goodness, like,
and it's
like
okay.
the stuff like, that we could have seen.
It's been 6 years, so I'm comfortable talking about it. It should have been a really good comic. In my opinion, it's a really good novel. That taught me, I learned how to write a novel writing this one, which was important. That's, set my life. But again, this is I owe it to him to not keep this to myself. I owe it to him to tell his story. I owe it to him to tell people, hey, if you don't feel good, go to see a doctor. I owe it to him to share. I can't say my creation, to share our creation, to share that little bit of art that he was able to do. Like, I owe it to my friend to make sure that one of his lasting creative legacies can still have legs. Like, it'd be very easy for me to sit there and leave this book alone and say, this wasn't my best book. It was my first attempt. It's fine. But I can't. So, I mean, like, so I will go back and, the best part of being a self-published writer is that I can fix stuff. I've gotten better. I'm proud to say that. Like, in the 3 years since I did finish this book and put it out, I'm better. I'm a better writer. So I go back and I don't rewrite from scratch because that's not fair to the work. But, I'll fix some things here and there. And it's mainly language stuff because I'm better at it. I understand the medium a little bit better. So yeah, I go back and I tweak it once a year just to make it better. Just because I owe it to him. And I probably could do that continuously. Not with all my books, but with this one. Because I owe it to somebody else to make sure it's as good as it can be.
And then, with that being said to you, I think it's safe to say that we'll dedicate this episode in Matt's memory too, because, like you just said, if it wasn't for him, like, this stuff would not have happened. So This episode goes out to Matt.
Rest in peace, my friend.
Yes, rest in peace, Matt. Now, JD, is there anything else that you would like to talk about with Hawk Hallow? Because
what I love about this book, the Matt stuff aside, is it's really the story. Like I said, I came up with the high concept with it with my younger brother. Matt's my best friend. We host a podcast together called the Story Builder Podcast, where the two of us and our cousin we have like a writer's room where we'll take an idea. And then we'll try to make a story out of it in an hour. It's a lot of fun, and it keeps me on my toes as far as being a creator goes. So yeah, we do this. Like, he is my sounding board for stuff. At its core, this is about two brothers who have lost their way with each other and need to reconnect. They literally need to reconnect with each other to survive. Like, it's the two groups of friends. The little brother's friends strike back at the big brother's bully friends. And they get trapped in this haunted house, and the big brother's bully friends are murdered by these demonic creatures. And the little kids have a chance to run, but Cody, the leader, won't, because he can't live with himself if something happens to his brother. So he stays behind, even though they might not have the relationship that they should have. They're trying to rebuild it under fire, literally. And I love that about it. Like, I love that I got to write about a relationship between two brothers. Like, Matt and I never had that bad of a relationship, but I do know kids that have. It was fun to write about kids. I've been coaching high school wrestling since 2003. I spend a lot of time with kids. And I like to think I have a tick on how they talk and how they think, and it's different than writing an Ethan Jericho book or something like that. Like, you put yourself in the minds of 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, and it's fun. And now that I'm a dad and I see Andy growing up and listening to him, and it's like, okay, I can look at this from a different perspective now. So I mean, I really, if you like Stranger Things, this is a good book for you. It was a big influence on me. Monster Squad was a huge influence on me, and it really, it's about how this really is a Halloween story. Halloween is my favorite holiday. Love dressing up, and I love trick-or-treating, and I loved being a kid. Researching this book, Matt and I actually went to a bunch of haunted houses and took notes. So it was weird to see two dudes in their 30s going to these haunted houses, but it was literally for business. It was literally for work. So, there's a lot of joy in this thing too. It's not just all, working through grief. There's a lot of fun in it too. And it's fun to write kid characters because they don't say the right thing. They don't do the right thing. They're rash. They're impulsive. They don't always make the right decision. And that's part of what makes drama fun, is people making the wrong decision. So I mean, there's a lot going on in this very short book, but it's a good story. It really is, and I'm very proud of it.
Well, it seems like it's a good story with all the great reviews I've seen about it. So I mean, you must have hit the heartstrings on some people, I will say, or where, like, we were talking about a few minutes ago, where they probably got attached to some character, and then once you killed them off, they're like, oh, come on, like, he was my favorite, and, like, we were just discussing, like, nobody's safe, and, everybody's time will come eventually, so it's just a matter of just enjoy it while you can.
Right, and when the stakes, when our kids, it's a little more serious, but at the same time, you can have a little more fun with it, So, yeah, man, it's a fun book, and it's available for $4.99 on Amazon right now. Every Halloween, I try to make a thing out of it. We got a new cover. I really love this thing. Like, I would love to go back to this world someday, but not yet.
I was just about to ask you, like, have you thought about, like, returning to the universe and continuing from, like, a different perspective or something? Or
The narrator of the audiobook, there's a Hawk Hallow audiobook too, if you like the Audible thing, really wants me to do another one of these because he really enjoyed doing this book. I think it's doing the kids, and he doesn't get a chance to do stuff like that. So he's really always pushing me to do that. And I have Hawk Hallow is a city in Minnesota, fictional, but it's one that shows up in a lot of my books. So there's a lot of there's a nice little Easter egg for Harvest Moon in this book, and there's a little in the Jericho books. Some of them go back to Hawk Hallow, and my Vision Quest superhero books. Like, there's some Hawk Hallow stuff in it, and we mentioned the characters, and I like a Stephen King type where I like having everything in one little contained universe that, in my mind, even it all works together. So, yeah, man, it's it all works in that way. I totally lost track of the point I was trying to make. I got that one.
Yeah, welcome to my world after what you just did to my brain.
Sorry about that. That was not my intention, but yeah, it's like I said, man, Matt's stuff was really great, and it's important to me that people can at least see my ode to him.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I do have. Sorry. Yes. Will there be a second story? I do have a homecoming, Hawk Hallow homecoming idea in my head. I don't have it quite flushed out yet, and I haven't had the reason to really do it yet. I do want to be pushed a little bit in that direction to tell everybody kind of what happens to the characters when they get to high school. So the ones that make it through. So yeah, there is another story there. We'll see how the year treats us.
Well, hopefully there's no tricks then. So
yeah.
Well, with that being said, JD, is there anything else on Hawk Hallow that you have not told us that you would like to tell us about, or do you think you've kind of said all that you can for right now?
Hawk Hallow is a story about kids that are faced with literal monsters. They're in a haunted house. They don't know who is a demon and who is just a kid pretending. Because through every corner, there's something else waiting for them. Is this the one that's going to get him, or is this just some little dork who's just having fun and a good time on Halloween? That is the fun of the story, and it's available right now on Amazon. And I would love for you to pick it up and let me know what you think, everybody.
Yes, and I would highly recommend it too, because JD's writing is quite. I don't even know the word right now of what I'm trying to think of. It's quite refreshing. I would say.
I was hoping you'd say good.
Yeah, it's quite refreshing because as we kind of were talking about too off the air, JD, and I'll make it quick too, but with the way we were talking about where everybody is the target, nobody is safe. That is what horror is missing even nowadays, because everybody needs to be the hero. Everybody tries to be the badass protagonist. Where is the story where nobody is safe at all, and the bad guy wins? Because usually 90% of the time that's what happens. Unfortunately.
Yeah, in real life, that's true. I don't like those. I don't like an ending like that. Like, you're not going to get one of my. I'll be honest with you, they're not going to have one of my works where the bad guys win. But what I think is really important is that, like, when the end of the story comes, there are ramifications. Like, the protagonists have to be changed. Sometimes it's for the better. Sometimes it's for the worse. I look back at one of my Jericho books, Nightcrawler, that's out now too. That story ends and the hero is in a way worse place than he was when it started. And he has to literally change everything to survive. Like, and I think that's important is like stakes have to mean something. Like, in Harvest Moon, like, the lead character is the least safe person in the entire book. And when it ends, everybody is in a worse place than when it started. But that's part of life, is like, you need to recover from being in those worse places. And sometimes it takes work to get there. And I think that's kind of what we all got to do. And I think the kids in this story are not necessarily in better places, but I think they've grown for the better when it comes out. Because again, this is a story about two brothers repairing their relationship. And like, things are messed up at the end, but they're stronger people for it. The ones that do make it through the maze alive. And I think that that's the lesson of horror, is like, we use our tragedies to shape who we are and try to make us into better people. Stronger people, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's always a good message too, because we start off weak, but then after what we've overcome, we become smarter, bolder, and just the outcome of it is just we're no longer afraid to confront our demon per se.
Here's a little writing trick that anyone who's listening who wants to write books, movies, comics, whatever. Any story, you need to start with a character, right? Your character has a goal, a single goal. Something is standing in its way of achieving that goal. By the time he reaches the end of his journey, whether he achieves the goal or not, he needs to be changed. That's a story. That's a key element. A lot of people forget that when creating, right? You need to have a character. He needs to get from A to B to C. And by the time he gets to C, he cannot be the same person. There's always exceptions to the rule. But by and large, that is the formula that makes a good story. Any genre.
Yeah, and I'll say that goes the same way with movies. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
And like I said, any story, book, comic, movies, like theater, opera, whatever. Like the best stories, and this is the stuff they teach you in school. You boil it down. Character A wants B to get, and then he has to get to C. Something that's standing in his way. Is it a force of nature? Is it a person? Is it whatever? That's how to tell a story, and it's all the devil's all in the details of how you get it done. So I will leave the listener with that.
and I think on that note, that might be the good way to, I guess, end the episode then, because I have nothing else left to ask. Because you basically answered what I would have asked anyway. But I guess JD is so Hawk Hollow. You said it's available on Amazon. Anywhere.
It's available on Amazon anywhere. It actually just got released this week through Kobo, Barnes and Noble. It's on all of your Google Play, Apple Books. Like I am officially a wide writer now. I don't just live on Amazon. My stuff is available everywhere. So Amazon. It's Prime. Prime Day's coming up, so I'm pushing the Amazon a little bit to help people out a little. But I mean, like, yeah, man. If you're not an Amazon person, you like Kobo, it's available there. If you like Apple Books, you like to read on your iPad, it's available there too. Like, I'm going above and beyond right now to make my stuff as accessible as possible. And it's actually a little bit tougher that way to make a buck for a writer. But hey, man, I want people to read, so there you go.
There you go. So I will do my best to provide the link in the episode below. Otherwise, I guess just go to google.com and just type in Hawk Hallow by JD Oliva, and you should probably get some best search results there. So, I mean, that's all I can think of, because I did try to look up Hawk Hallow and other places, but unfortunately, like JD just said, he just uploaded it in other places. So
just did it yesterday. Yeah. I literally just did it. So
yeah, he just did it. So
by the end of the week, it'll all be available. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, another good thing to do is you do not like supporting like big companies like Amazon and stuff. Go to your local bookstore and see if they can order you a copy there. Support local bookstores as well, especially at the time of weird ass crazy world. So
absolutely, it's available in paperback too. So we are more than happy to, if you want to work with your local bookstore, just ask them to place the order for you. They will they will bid it from the distributor themselves, and I got no problem with that. I support local businesses. I am a local business. I am a small businessman, so I understand exactly what people are thinking. Like I said, if you don't like Amazon, the other online retailers are going to have it soon. One thing I'm debating about is in the next year, maybe selling direct on my own site. I'm not 100% sold on that. I have to look at the tax implications of it, but I'm debating it myself because I don't love Amazon. No one does, but for right now they are the number one, and you got to dance with the devil sometimes. So, but I understand.
Yeah. I think we all dance with the devil in the pale moonlight sometimes. So
one of my all-time favorite movie quotes. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, with that being said, JD, thank you for allowing this conversation to happen, and I'll say it again. Rest in peace, Matt. This episode will be going out for you in your name for all your hard work that you did do and what could have been, because oh my god, I'm still like in shock of like this artwork. So, and since JD will allow me to use these images, I will put them in the article so that way people can see it. So for anyone that's listening on iTunes or anywhere else that is not on our website, go to our website and go to find this article for the interview, and just scroll down, and these images by Matt here will be there for your eye to just go, what the hell? Like, this is amazing. So, yes. With that being said, hopefully everybody had a nice trick-or-treat. And I know with some states nowadays banning the whole trick-or-treating thing and etc. I mean, at least maybe if you pick up this book, maybe give you a nice little treat then, and hopefully not a trick. And hopefully you'll be a sweet tooth to engulf in the pages and just have a good old fancy time with the Hawk Hallow. And hopefully more to come too. So until then, until we meet with JD again, thank you very much for joining. And as always, everybody, just remember to stay calm, stay safe, and above all, just, keep it scary. Because you just never know when the clock will tick down to the sands of time.